All right, I know we've been on Nintendo's neck for the last few days, but something is very interesting. As I was talking about these Nintendo, prices and looking at options across the different platforms, I don't know if many of you caught it, but Xbox is still gunning to take money away from PlayStation players' hands. I got a comment from some audience member who was kind of trying to, I don't know, start an argument saying I'm making passive aggressive videos on PlayStation, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is the gaming industry is exactly where it's at because a lot of these companies have been faking their, so-called dominance, when in reality, dominance has always been who could bring value to the table. That's how you actually take over. Because you see, the knee-jerk reaction that we had to the Nintendo Switch pricing is because of the amount of value that already is available like in today's gaming market. The Nintendo Switch in 2017 didn't really have too much to actually contend against it. I just ran some numbers in a previous video, and when I looked at those numbers, I was quite surprised to see that the year that the Switch came out, there were 6,000 games that came out on Steam. Last year, there were over 18,000 and such. But what we're seeing in this particular market is that, Xbox has basically broken all these barriers and its business strategy seems to be working. Nintendo's is yet to be proven. Once the Switch comes out, we'll see how, this goes, because Twitter is not a good metric and not a good way to measure anything. Because if you go on Twitter, you think nobody's going to buy this Nintendo Switch. You think everybody's going to buy this Nintendo Switch too, right? It's almost like neck and neck if you try to go from Twitter. But if say you have gone to Twitter, say, a few months ago, you would think that nobody would buy Forza Horizon 5 ever at all. But the difference is now here that not only are these people going to be buying Forza Horizon 5, they're going to be buying the standard and the premium edition. They're also going to be buying Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, both the standard and the premium edition, both games set to launch pretty soon, and I've now taken over the PlayStation charts at the moment. This is how basically Xbox has decided to go with its business, and it appears that, ladies and gentlemen, this is their winning strategy. Apparently, gamers want to play games. Most gamers are not going to depart their platform for any reason. And so this is exactly why we're going to see how, Nintendo's business strategy is going to pretty much be proven. This is their make or break moment. Are people going to be dedicated in saying we want to keep Nintendo in our lives? According to something that so-called, content creator, Twitter person, Nintendo Prime claims that his college professor said, or are people going to be like, you know what? Why don't I go ahead and pursue value? In the meantime, you also have the Xbox gamers who basically are kind of like ground zero for all of this value flowing out of the freaking console and its, counterpart ecosystems. They also are looking forward to, I think, a really, really rigorous year, like a fun year in terms of video games that are already available in some cases, video games that are coming in other cases. It's actually very interesting when you think about it. I can't emphasize how much this is actually so cool that Xbox gamers who used to be the ones that everybody kind of touted, oh, don't have games, blah, 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 are now the ones that are actually now in a place where, everyone, even the PlayStation gamers could not come out and point to PlayStation as a substitute to counter the Nintendo, pricing and a Nintendo proposition. Because when Nintendo was like, hey, here's this feature that you're going to have to pay for, PlayStation fanboys were like, oh, no, that's not even a thing. Game Pass is a thing. Like, what? The biggest endorsement just happened for Game Pass, and many people missed it. One of them, according to Island J Gaming's video, was J-Dub, where he saw the pricing and said, nah, bro, I'll just get myself a Series S and a Game Pass subscription. Then there were all kinds of other people who were saying, do you think that Game Pass is going to now get more expensive because of the Nintendo pricing? Because even they themselves had to somehow find something to cling on to. The Nintendo announcement was one of those announcements where some people kind of almost fell over backwards. And as they were falling backwards, they had to, how you have to grab something when you're about to sit down. Because, you just can't, land in your chair. And the thing that they grabbed was Game Pass. They didn't know it. They inadvertently started to talk more about Game Pass than they had, or started to even maybe in some sense endorse Game Pass when it came down to it. Because again, in this particular year, after enjoying Game Pass actually And you guys know the Switch was doing its thing, right? Very quietly, it was kind of dwindling down the Nintendo Switch. And then we started hearing about it again, the ramp up of, who sold the most consoles. But Game Pass was basically making strides in pretty much the acquisitions and those games making their way to the platform. To the point where as Nintendo went ahead and, announced this, everybody was like, bro, we've all been here and been seeing what Game Pass is doing. How is it possible that somebody would come out now and basically announce, something like this? So this particular post here, very funny. Nintendo announces $80 Game Pass. PlayStation fanboys to Xbox and Game Pass. Perhaps I treated you too harshly. Now, there's still some people that are bitter. I mean, I saw a comment on the channel where somebody said, I don't care if Game Pass prices go up. I don't care about Game Pass. So the prices need to go up. That's not true. You care about Game Pass because you want the prices to go up so that you can say, ha, 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 to Xbox players. But most Xbox players, they've dialed into the mathematics of Game Pass. And the mathematics of Game Pass actually signal to many Xbox gamers that you will have a threshold for the value that's on there. So right now, Game Pass and its own subscription price is exactly where it's at for what's being given. Should it go up, I'd expect to see a lot more. And for now, if the price were to go up at this particular point in time, there's no reason for anybody to be paying for Game Pass. And I'll be the first to tell you, hop off if you don't have anything that you're doing here, right? But when we look at the numbers and when we look at the math, man, it's not even a question. The service just pretty much does a good job and puts to shame a lot of the old hegemony in terms of gaming, right? A lot of people are basically looking at it like, see people talking, see people on Twitter pretty much when you go in and look at Game Pass as of the last few days, after the Nintendo, whatever, you saw this post says these two fan bases deserve all the price hikes they can get. They're the ones constantly idolizing them as if they never do anything wrong. Media is also doing the same. And I've noticed that. Do you notice that the media is a lot more tepid with this Nintendo price hiking? They're covering the stories around it, but it's nothing like Xbox got hit for when they were raising the prices of Game Pass compared to when they raised the prices for PlayStation, Plus. There's always been some kind of an Xbox tax, but Nintendo was the darling of the media. Now, I have not taken time to examine much, but from what I'm seeing these past few days, man, it shows that there's some level of, nostalgia that's actually here on a lot of people. So this quote says, Game Pass fans seeing Nintendo charge $90 for their first party games. Bro, I don't know what the heck is going on here. I don't know what this dance is, but it seems it seems really funny. April 2nd, Daniel Herman, I don't know who this is. This person said Game Pass is the best deal in gaming. Delta169 says, not gonna lie, Game Pass is still the best deal in gaming right now. It's just interesting to see that finally there's some kind of a realization. I guess it's always been here. This is not news, but seeing how Nintendo has basically triggered this and how PlayStation basically right now is, no one is even talking about PlayStation in this whole conversation. It's like somewhere, somehow, the whole thing kind of went Nintendo and flew over all the way to Xbox. So-called third place has now not only taken over the conversation like I warned you all a while ago. Do y'all remember that? I told you, I said that Xbox is going to take over the conversation. Now, people cannot even mention Nintendo without mentioning Xbox. Now, that is what I call doing the job of dominating the airwaves. Because guess what's going to happen? When everything's all said and done, hopefully, God willing, nothing crazy happens, an Xbox game is going to drop on the PlayStation. And everyone's going to sit back and relax and watch and see how PlayStation fans interact with the game. It's going to be interesting. Is Forza Horizon 5 going to suck, or is it going to be a hit? I guess we'll see. Then after that, Indiana Jones is going to drop. And then we're going to also sit back and look and say, hey, what's going on? Is it going to suck, or is it going to rock? Then after that, there's going to be Doom: The Dark Ages, which comes out in May. And Xbox fans are going to be sitting there going, is it going to suck, or is it going to rock? And then after that, there's going to be the Tony Hawk's game. And Xbox fans are going to be sitting there going, is it going to suck, or is it going to rock? The whole conversation is going to be dominated, at least for the first half of the year, by Xbox on PlayStation. And while Nintendo is still trying to gather its footing, everything that Nintendo has so-called brought to the market this time, people are going to also say, well, apparently Xbox also does this stuff. Now, the PC gamers, we've already laughed and said, PC's been doing this. What the heck is Nintendo trying to do over here? But Xbox gamers are going to look at Nintendo and say, wow, cute, because they're already saying it. They're already saying it, right? So this is going to be very interesting how this interaction is going to go. And it's very funny that Xbox kind of just slipped its way into this little position where now, after all of the trampling that has been attempted upon the platform, it now is the platform that anybody, including the PlayStation fanboys, have to now basically say, well, you know, when Nintendo tries to come out with a more, I think, extreme version of consumer unfriendliness that I've seen in my life. Again, you know, I have my own standards. So again, when I weigh them against my standards and against what's on the market, nah, that's not a platform I intend to be giving any money to at anytime soon. But it is what it is. Let's see how this all plays out. PlayStation is about to get flooded. They know that no one's gonna be talking about PlayStation for a little bit. I mean, until they bring out their Ghost of Yotei and other stuff, then they can take over the airwaves. But for now, all these multiplayer games and stuff, they're just gonna, you know, sit pretty on there. But it's all different. It's cool. It's cool. It's not like we didn't know it was coming. But I wanted to point it out because I was shocked when I saw this. At first, we used to see a mix of things, right? And now look at Elden Ring Night Rain. People don't realize that From Software is going to also be benefiting from that Duskbloods, because people are going to be like, we can't play Duskbloods, and we're going to play Night Rain because it's available for us here. I don't know why Nintendo, well, From Software, they're going to be eating hand over fist. Anyways, talk to me in the comment section. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.